I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it, discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it, uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know, there'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Senior Nation. I'm your host, Hyllis, Aymen, and you are listening to the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. We are indeed a senior nation with 100 plus million adults over the age of 50. And we are here to bring you up-to-date information about successful aging, healthful longevity, and becoming what I call a well-ager, to dignity, respect, quality of life, and quality of care for our parents, our grandparents, and loved ones. We at Senior Nation will be your trusted voice for informed choices, meaningful conversations, and a vibrant life at every age. Though the Source TV Radio Network is known for its dedication to bringing the highest level of jazz content to the viewing and listening audience, the owners of the network are also dedicated to bringing this important content to this fast-growing demographic, and I'm always expressing my gratefulness for the opportunity. And now for tonight's guest. I am beyond thrilled to have Nira Duncan, who I've known for several years. Nora is Connecticut State Director for AARP. Her accomplishments are vast and impressive. Since joining AARP in 2012, Nora led her staff and team of active volunteers in developing localized plans to achieve the goals and seamlessly contribute to AARP's national priorities in outreach, education, and advocacy. She led successful campaigns to increase healthcare access, protect people from consumer fraud and identity theft, open access to workplace retirement savings to 600,000 Connecticut workers, enhance workplace flexibility for 459,000 Connecticut family caregivers, and make communities more livable for all ages. Nora has been recognized by the National Council of Nonprofits for nonprofit advocacy leadership, locally for volunteer excellence by Nutmeg Big Brothers and Big Sisters and the City of Hartford, and was named a Hartford Business Journal 40 Under 40. She's a graduate of the University of Connecticut, but also attended Harvard Law School Executive Education Program on Negotiation and Leadership. So I'm so thrilled to have Nora here with me tonight.
Hi, Hyllis.
Hey, Nora, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So it's good to be here with you again. I said before when we were backstage, I first met you and I had a conversation with you on a television show on Hartford Public Access Television, and then when I had my previous podcast, you made the time to join me. So it's been years in between, and, really thrilled to hear about the updates, that you're engaged in with AARP at the present moment, because I know, as you pointed out to me, that Social Security turns 90 this year, and there are several concerns around that. So
yeah. All right. You want to start there? Okay. Yeah. So Social Security turned 90 on, I believe it was August 14th. So we're celebrating 90 for all of 2025. Social Security has never missed a payment in its entire 90 years. And it's not going to under AARP's watch. I can tell you that. We will fight to make sure it never does. But yeah, so I like to say around the 90th, we celebrate while we advocate and educate, because there's a lot. I was just at a retirement summit today with the state comptroller, the Connecticut Business and Industry Association at Quinnipiac University, for those of you who don't know, which is a North Haven, Hamden-based university, talking about retirement policy, the future, what's concerning, what's positive, where we look forward, why we have to make changes. So I'm fresh off this conversation today. But what's concerning is that if Congress doesn't take bipartisan action in the next 8 years, and I said bipartisan action, so
I got that.
Yeah, you know, it is possible. It can still happen. But around
Right.
the current today recipients of Social Security, people who paid in and are taking out what they earned, you know, we earned it. Yeah, you, Hyllis, you're one of them. You know, there's about 720,000 people in Connecticut between the 500,000 and change. I think it's like 550,000 retirees, and then there's folks who are because they're disabled, and then there are survivor benefits folks. But we paid in, and if bipartisan action doesn't happen all around the country in about 8 years, everyone, current and future, are going to see a 20% cut to their Social Security monthly income. Now, let's just forget for a second what that means to an individual. To some people, that's like, all right, well, I'm not going to get an extra latte or two. To some people, that hits. That puts you in poverty. Okay, but I want to just talk for a minute about what it means to Connecticut and to America. In Connecticut alone, and I don't have all my America stats in front of me, and we're just working off the top of my head today. But in Connecticut alone, $16.4 billion in Social Security payments annually come into the state of Connecticut. That is $16.4 billion that goes into Connecticut's economy. So when I'm speaking today to the Connecticut Business and Industry Association, our state comptroller, Sean Scanlon, put this all together. He is not even 40 and understands this like almost nobody I know. But $16.4 billion, take a 20% cut out of that to Connecticut's economy, to the nation's economy. And you tell me where we are with small business, with you know, restaurants,
Right.
with, you know, for just pretending we're only talking about the people who are going to cut the unnecessary, not the people who are going to fall into poverty.
Right.
The people who would cut the unnecessary. What happens to the economies of your towns, your cities, your states, your United States? It's so that's the crisis we're facing. The celebration is that, you know, Social Security has served for 90 years as the bedrock of secure retirement. It is what makes aging easier. Aging is not easy, but AARP's goal is to make aging easier. Social Security does that for millions and millions and millions of people every day.
Right. Yeah,
and,
I mean,
you know, it's a promise. Yeah, it's a sacred promise that has been made. We have paid in. We earned it. We paid in. I started paying into Social Security the first time when I was 15 years old. Right. Many people are just like that. And I am 52 now, and I do my planning for retirement, and I'm counting on that income being there.
Right.
And everyone should be able to count on that. And that is why AARP will never stop fighting. And we want to bring an army of people with us. So if anyone is inspired by my little speech here, you can go to aarp.org/we earned it, and you can sign our pledge. The pledge is that you're going to help us fight for a strong Social Security. But what I'm going to tell you what it really means. It means when there's a problem, when there's a bill, when there's an issue ahead of us about Social Security, we're going to let you know, and we're going to ask you to join us in what we believe is the right thing to do. We are the #1 trusted organization on Social Security in America, and we intend on keeping it that way. So we're not going to ask you to act frivolously or on something that's not important, but you can, you know, join the army of people that are willing to contact their member of Congress. And let me tell you, we are like over 90% of people we've surveyed, Republican, Democrat, Independent alike, all say Social Security is a critical issue. Super important to them. So this is not about politics, but it is going to be about what happens in a few years when Congress really does need to start acting. And I'll give you an example, Hyllis. Earlier this year, we'll talk like February through April, there was a lot going on with the Social Security Administration indicating that they were no longer going to do certain things over the phone. So you either needed to go online or you needed to go in person.
Right.
Then meanwhile, also there's some shuttering of some offices. It's not that easy to go in person. Some people don't want to go online. We are all about preventing fraud, waste, and abuse, but we believe there are ways to do that without cutting off phone service. So, we wrote our letters from our national office, from our top brass to the Social Security Administration, to Congress, to the administration itself. Turned around one thing, got postponed, came back. The phone stuff was going to happen again, and we enlisted that army, and we sent about 3 million contacts into Congress, and within a week, that policy was reversed.
Really?
So we have power in numbers. AARP, for those of you that don't know, is a nonpartisan social mission organization. We're a nonprofit. We do not donate to candidates. We do not endorse candidates. We do not donate to PACs. We use our numbers, our member numbers, like close to 38 million, but anybody can sign up to be part of our Social Security campaign and take that pledge. So those numbers are what matter, because we can activate those people. We don't need to have campaign contributions. We don't need to donate to PACs. We don't need to endorse, because we have people, and people matter because people vote. And so we have people in every district of Congress in the country. And we utilize those folks to help us influence policy that matches the policy agendas and the policy that we have endorsed at AARP that help make, aging easier for people.
I have to say, I'm thinking of a couple of people off the top of my head who, are living, I'll say, comfortably, based on other investments they've had, let's say. But I'm thinking of one person in particular who said to me, listen, and I'm just going to, well, I won't say it completely the way he said it, but basically the message was, if even one payment is late, I'm screwed. I mean, that's what he said. And he's living fairly comfortably. And I know, I don't know the amount of his investments, but knowing what he did previously, I would think that they probably are substantial, but that doesn't mean he's still not using that to figure into what his monthly, budget would be, or, whatever he wants to do moving forward. And so it's not just a question, like you say, of people just living at the edge, right? But even people beyond that.
And to that point, fellas, I think all of us are probably the most worried about people living on the edge and what happens to someone right now who's scraping by. What happens to someone who right now is cutting their pills in half because they can't afford their medications, who just got a rent increase that exceeds the amount of their monthly income? I mean, that's a lot of people. But what I can say is Connecticut is a very expensive place to live. So there's a lot of people who, even if they are comfortable, and I'm not saying filthy rich or anything here.
Right.
And you've paid off your house, but you're not working anymore and your income is fixed. And all of a sudden there's a huge property tax increase. I mean, that can make the difference between, a lot of important decisions you make, because, or what I don't want to see is people having to be forced to try to go back to work when they don't want to or can't. Right. But we see property tax increases of 7, 8, 10% sometimes in a revaluation year, if not more. And that happens to be usually in communities. I mean, you live here, usually in communities that have higher property tax burden already. Right. So you may have paid off this house, but you have only where the last payment you made was maybe $1,500, $1,800 a month because you bought it 35, 40 years ago. It may be worth a ton of money now, but you don't want to leave. You shouldn't have to, by the way. Right. Shouldn't have to. But also, like, downsizing isn't just an equation of equal. It's not to say I can sell my big house and downsize to something smaller and it's all going to work out in the wash. It's just not working that way. People in Connecticut are very concerned that they're not able to downsize. They're not able to afford to downsize. What kind of crazy talk is that? If you said that to me 40 years ago, or to my grandparents, they would be like, what are you talking about? I can't afford to downsize. That's the whole point, is I'm getting smaller and cheaper. And that's not how it works anymore.
Correct.
And you're looking, I mean, and you look at condo fees, if you want to not take care of your own yard. I mean, you look at HOAs, $800, $900 a month.
Right.
The smallest tweak in the monthly budget can put a lot of people who consider themselves to be middle class into a precarious position.
I agree.
I don't know if that's the case in every state, but I certainly know it's the case in a lot of the Northeast.
So we have a comment here. Nancy McQueen says Maryland receives over $2 billion for Social Security monthly. It's 6.2% of all spending for goods and services.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't listen, Nancy McQueen. Good for you on your math monthly. I'm not sure I can do mine for 16.4. So not 2 billion in Connecticut, but 16.4 billion a year. Yeah. I mean, the longevity economy is about what people age 50 and up contribute to.
Correct. Which is worth about $4 trillion, I think now, right?
I mean, but like, then let's go 65 and up, 67 and up, 70 and up. When people are collecting Social Security, that's, you know, their percentage that's related to Social Security isn't going to increase once we hit the target numbers. It is not something to trifle with.
Correct.
If you are a state lawmaker, so during the 90th, you know, I was pushing this and it worked. I got a little traction. If you are a governor or a legislator or the chair of the appropriations committee or work for a committee in the legislature that needs money to pay for things, you better be worried about a $16.4 billion part of your economy.
Exactly.
I mean, you better be worried because you're not going to be able to make up for that.
Correct.
And when people are on the edge, now they're going to qualify for more assistance programs they didn't qualify for previously, right? Which is why I worry about retirement security from the day people start working.
Right.
What we call My CT Savings in Connecticut to the day they retire. But I don't want you to start thinking about your retirement and your income on the day you turn 65.
No,
I don't want the legislature and the government and the federal government and Congress to start thinking about Social Security on the day it has a 20% pay cut.
Right, exactly. So wait, Jean says, my husband and I just did a reverse mortgage in order to stay in our house because of rising property taxes. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, property taxes are, I mean, the housing expense burden does not just impact people who are first-time home buyers or younger people who are trying to stay in their homes. There's a continuum here. You know,
Correct.
The problem is the missing middle. The problem is if you want to downsize, there's not much missing middle for you to downsize to. And you're competing with people who are going into like first or second homes if they can even get there. I mean, there's a continuum of housing from mansions to, you know, to I can't remember the word we used for it, but mobile homes. Right. And everywhere in between. And all of them should be able to be accessed by people safely, affordably, to your income level, obviously. Right. And without it being so much of a burden that you can't afford the rest of the staples in your life. And that's unfortunately a place where we are. But again, this property tax burden, you know, I mean, I look at what my parents bought their house for. Okay. When I was 3, they put on a beautiful 3-season room. I'm going to call it. It's not even. It's probably 2.5 seasons. But you know, they took a deck and they made it into something they could put a fan in it. It's lovely. They get to look in the backyard the whole time. That cost that little room cost the same amount as their house did.
Oh my goodness.
When they bought it. Okay, so I mean, that's you know, they had the cash. That wasn't a problem. But to think that turning a deck into a room with screens and windows and a fan. I mean, it doesn't have air conditioning. It doesn't have heating. It has lights and a fan. It costs the same as their house did.
That's crazy.
You know, if they face a property tax burden that exceeds their monthly, what their monthly income is, they're going to have to make choices. And my parents are very middle class. Right. I don't worry about them living on the edge. I mean, I worry about lots of things with lots of people, but it really is a cliff that a lot of people would fall off of. And And property taxes, even if we're not taking Social Security into this, property taxes play a big role. And in a state like Connecticut and a lot of the Northeast, it's an outsized role.
Yeah. So I was thinking of two things as you were talking. One is when you said about you don't want people to have to go back to work if they don't want to. And of course, there's a whole topic to address about age discrimination in the workplace and what's possible for people to go back to. And I'm sure we've all seen, people in our communities, and some of it is not because they have to, it's because they want to. They want to get out, they want to be engaged, whether it's they used to have a profession, maybe they were, I'm just thinking of Home Depot, because I've seen people there.
I used to own my own contracting business. I don't want to manage all those people anymore, but I still like to do a little.
Right, exactly.
I don't want to manage anybody, but I'm happy to give advice and help people out.
Right. So, there's that whole issue about age discrimination in the workplace, which is, a whole other burden. And if they raise the retirement age and there are more people that have to remain in the workforce because they won't be eligible for Social Security, right? But now then there's the issue of age discrimination in the workplace. I mean, can you say something about that?
You make a lot of good points. I can say that age discrimination is a problem. And since the pandemic, our annual surveys, our semi-annual, we do a lot of surveying people on these issues. And I can honestly, I would have to have 13 reams of paper and 72 windows open to get all my stats right. So I always say, check my math. Not on that 16.4 billion though. I know that one. That one I know. We survey people on their feelings about workplace discrimination regularly. And after the pandemic, as you can imagine, when people who were older were more at risk of being ill, the numbers were out of this freaking world in age discrimination, perceived age discrimination anyway.
Correct.
They skyrocketed after the pandemic. A lot of it has to do with misconceptions. Some of it has to do with, the way our insurance systems are set up and people costing more. We all know that you can outlaw discrimination, and there's still going to be discrimination and ways to get around it. We know that artificial intelligence plays a huge role in discriminating against anything you want, really.
Right.
But yes, we are in a position where something like 90-something% of 50-plus-year-olds have some level of perceived age discrimination in the workplace. We have been at the table in Congress with bipartisan support that hasn't gotten that much traction, including, I believe, something that's being released this week. This is another, don't quote me, but it's hard for me to keep track of all the federal stuff and the state stuff, right? Good thing I have a really strong, awesome team of colleagues in DC who do the most of the federal stuff. But we can work in states, and we have. Connecticut passed a law, and it should have been in 2020, but then pandemic. But we passed it in 2021. Senator Derek Slapp was the champion on that.
And you know who else? I can tell you. Wait, let me just interrupt you for a second. You know who else? He was the youngest state senator in the country at the time, and I interviewed him on my podcast when I had it, and it was Will Haskell.
Will did sign on. I will give Derek Slapp the champion. But yes, lots of people signed on, including we were able to get the Connecticut Business and Industry Association to sign on after a few years of not wanting to sign on, because Senator Slapp and I kind of had some lessons that we learned together, thinking we had an easy time at something. In 2019, turns out we got caught up in some stuff. And then we were clear sailing in 2020, and then the pandemic hit and there was no laws passed. Then I believe if my years are all lining up correctly, but the bill itself, and I would do this differently if I hadn't been one of the first in the nation to pass this. Okay. You have to learn, you have to take your wins and then sometimes go back and get more or learn and try to help others do better. But in Connecticut, you can no longer ask any age-related questions on an initial job application of any kind. So that includes dates you went to school. You can't be like, you can't ask when I graduated from high school, because if you ask when I graduated from high school, you're going to make a pretty good educated guess.
Yeah, really.
Same thing with undergrad. It's not as easy. It's not as good of an educated guess, but it's still, right? You can't, so none of these, first, you were never allowed to ask date of birth once you got past things, but those school dates, that was a trick. And whether it was a trick intentionally or it was by accident, but people were either well-intentioned and just being not smart, because I mean, the Society for Human Resources Management said, stop doing that. You're setting yourself up. Every time you ask a question like that, whether it's legal or not legal,
correct,
you are setting yourself up if there's a discrimination suit.
Correct.
To look like you just added data that's going to prove someone's point.
Right.
I'll get into that a little bit more. But anyway, you can't do that anymore. But I don't have any teeth in my law. Okay. So other states have moved forward, and like Colorado and some others have added a little teeth. But you know what? It's good. It's a start. It's a start, because that helps prevent the AI from being able to just dump you if the AI is set the right way when you put your application in.
So wait, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So suppose I wanted to go back and do some patient care as a speech and language pathologist.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'd have to send my resume in someplace. Although not always. Sometimes people know me, or they, I just talk to them.
It usually is who you know.
Right, exactly. But so suppose I did have to send my resume. So you're saying that I shouldn't have the dates when I went to school on it?
Well, no, I would say you shouldn't, because they're not allowed to ask. But if you provide it,
right, then it's obvious.
It's on you, right?
Right.
But also, like, we have so many tools at AARP that anybody can use. I think it's aarp.org/work, and there's section for employers, employees, job seekers, et cetera, but including all these models of how to write a resume that are skill-based, experiential, and not date-based. I do not need to see, Hyllis, what you did in 1973. Right. That's really not relevant anymore anyway, okay?
Correct.
So if you want to go back more than 15 or 20 years, there are models out there, and there's some free services that we can let you run your resume through. Listen, you can upgrade and pay, but you don't have to. You can just use the free one first, and they'll give you, I've done it. It hurt, actually. I was like, wow, my resume sucks. Okay. Because I wanted to test it before I ever gave it to anybody to use, right? But yeah, they had some painful criticisms of me.
Wow.
That's okay. That's good.
No, yeah, no, listen, we all learn, right?
Your experience is what's important.
Correct.
The dates that you did them is important, right? So there's models out there that allow you to leave dates off, and no one should be putting more than 15 or 20 years if they are using dates. And you should most definitely not be putting your dates you attended school, and you most definitely should not be using. So this is like very common around Hartford, and which is where I live and work. So we have a college that's very popular for a lot of commuters, especially. Good college. Previously, it was a college, but now it's a university.
Right.
So change the name to match the current name of the school, not the old name from which you graduated.
Oh, good point.
Because when they go to contact that place, it's going to be if they go to contact that place, right? It's going to be the new name. That's still the entity, but you date yourself by using company old names. So I used to work for a company that had one name that about 4 years after I left merged with another company and has another name. It is not outside of the range or the scope for me to use that new company's name, because that is who you would be contacting if you were going to go look for a proof of work, right? So don't date yourself by using older names. Don't date yourself by using dates that aren't relevant. Don't put your experience on from a million years ago. Do use your volunteer experience on your resume. If you have a big gap that was due to caregiving or something like that, do explain it and write it up like it was a job. And I have in my house personal experience. It is a job. It is a job. And people understand that now. So
in a very different way. Correct.
And while you're doing all of that as a job seeker, and we got off because people do or don't want to go back to work. Age discrimination is real. Discrimination of all kinds is real.
Correct.
Do know that AARP has every year in my 13 years of being at AARP, and I'm sure before that, been before Congress on bills to level the playing field for older workers, including as recently as last week, Nancy Lamond, who's got a very long title, but is our chief lobbyist and the head of all states and communities in our programming for AARP. She's very high up, gets ranked like top 20 lobbyists in DC every year, was before Congress talking about this issue. I know we have some endorsement of some bills coming out. One of the things that happened, again, don't quote me, many years ago in the Supreme Court changed like the proof point for age discrimination so that it was harder to prove age discrimination than it was other forms of protected class discrimination.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and, you know, it's interesting to me is that the one thing we all have in common is that if we keep living, we keep getting older.
Right.
I don't care your gender, your race, your sexual orientation, your nationality.
I don't care.
If we keep living, we all get older.
Correct.
So in this country, we have a tendency to not be as respectful of that as some other countries are. And, you know, it is our one giant commonality. Every breath you take, you age.
I agree. I just want, as you're talking, I'm also thinking about, like you said, don't put this on your resume, that, or the other thing. I think it's more about how you think of yourself as a body of work. What has your body of work been? It doesn't even matter what I did if it was in, 1990, it doesn't matter. It's contributed to who I am as a person and as a professional now. And so it's still a body of work. And I think that mindset, how you think about it and how you bring that forward to who you are today, that is probably the most relevant.
And I think what you just described, if I have to put it on paper, which we all unfortunately do, we have to tell our own story on paper, which is not fun. It's not fun to do your resume. I mean, I was out of work during the Great Recession and I was not over 50. I wasn't even over 40, but I can tell you it was horrible. I learned a lot, but keeping the positivity about telling your own story and using your experience as a wide body. One other thing I'll recommend, because you said that, Hyllis, is that a lot of times the people that know you can help you tell your story better than you can tell yourself. When you were reading my bio, I was like, like, you know what I mean? Like,
really? Listen, there was so much more I could have said. I'm like, wow.
I mean, I understand that I gave that to you.
Nora's bio.
I understand that I gave that to you, at least I think I did, but like, and all of it's true, but it took a long time for me to get a lot of that stuff on paper. And sometimes you need someone else, and because you don't have a long time to wait, to help you. So go to your trusted allies, let them tell you your strengths and your weaknesses. Use AI yourself to figure out how to make those strengths and weaknesses the strongest strengths that you can make them, and the elimination of the weaknesses, right? AI can help you. It is not evil. It is actually a tool. I'm doing moderating a panel, I don't know, in like 4 weeks. And it's a women's group, and it's some perspectives on AI and like resistance to AI, but why also if you can resist all you want, like it's coming for you.
Right.
So how do you use it? Like what little things can you do to use it yourself? So this is like the dumbest example ever, but I was standing there today at this event waiting for it to happen with my volunteer state president, who is 81, and another volunteer, I think he's like 76. And I'm talking about a trip I'm going on Friday for fun. And he said, I just asked ChatGPT like what I should do in XYZ city. Amazing recommendations. I just did it. I did it while I was waiting for the thing to start. It gave me like 4 recommendations I hadn't even thought of. Take your easy step and apply that to your to-do list or your next trip. Then think about how you can apply it to yourself in telling your own story. And when you're asking your colleagues, your friends, your family, also ask AI and see what matches up and see if it can give you a way you don't want to copy and paste. You want to read it, and you want to take what you think is real, what you feel good about, and then rewrite it into your own words. But
so listen, I want to tell you, I was talking with someone who's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks. I've also known him for many, many years, and I hadn't spoken to him in quite some time. And I don't know what possessed him. He said, I'm just going to put your name into ChatGPT. I want to see what it says. And it was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. It captured a lot of what was out there. That was, some of it was a little older, like my previous show, whatever. But I was like, wow, like, go figure.
I mean, it's just searching the internet in a way that your brain can't do as quickly and decipher. I mean, it'll give you, it's only as good as what you put in also.
Correct.
So you have to remember, but it really can be helpful in life. And, I hadn't thought about some of this because, like, I'm kind of that person that I'd like to resist it, but I know it's going to run me over. So at work, I joined a group, like a employee resource group, for lack of a better word, of trying to learn more things more quickly and use my itty bitty little amount of brain power I have left to, like, take in a new thing that I don't really want. But listening to these women that I'm going to moderate this panel for talk about it in an entirely different way was very helpful to me. And it reminded me of way back in the day when I used to lead Weight Watchers classes, where he'd say, just take 1 week at a time. Right. You don't have to conquer AI or anything else in your life usually today, but, like, take it a little bit at a time. Right. Put your grocery list that you scratched onto a piece of paper into AI and see if it organizes it into aisles for you.
Right. Oh, Jesus.
If we just knock 15 minutes off your trip.
Okay.
Try anything, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. So, we're talking about, so we talked about, and I don't know that you want to say too much about this, but, we talked about Social Security and, age and affordability and all of that kind of thing. And one of the things that I think is concerning to a lot of people is Medicare and Medicaid and any potential cuts coming down the road. So do you want to address that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to proclaim to be an expert in any of this. And I've taken our Medicare 101 class like 3 times, and I still refer everybody to the Choices program, which is our Connecticut program for where you go to ask for Medicare advice. You're paying for it with your federal taxes anyway. They give non-biased advice. I suggest you go to the Choices program. And every state has one of those, by the way. It's just not always called Choices. But so when the HR1, it has another name, I'm not going to use it. HR1 came down the pike a bit ago. It had Medicaid cuts in it that AARP opposed. And I mean, I was on the Hill with my colleagues and, my colleagues from every state. So red, blue, purple, everything in between.
Orange, green,
I mean, I'm very few of the all blue states on the map. And for years, it was a lot more responsibility for people like me, right, who are from all blue states. And now it's my colleagues are doing the same work I'm doing and bringing the same message to Congress. And, Medicaid cuts are very concerning. They're very concerning to access to vital health care, but long-term care in settings like nursing homes, which is how most nursing homes are paid for. And listen, I have had my clashes with the nursing home industry. I have had my kumbaya moments with the nursing home industry. And, but I'm very concerned, as is AARP, about what these things are going to look like down the road, and what services are not going to happen. And I mean, I think we're not going to see the real results of this, but there's major concerns to state budgets, and what that means for other programs that people find vital. What that means to property taxes, what that means to everything. There's nothing operates in a vacuum when it comes to these things. So SNAP, the nutritional assistance program, major increases to state budgets coming to that, cost sharing to even keep it up, whether there's a lot of concerns. And I don't feel equipped that I know the full ramifications I know there's a lot of state analysis happening, especially, I know Connecticut. I don't know every state, but I can't imagine states are being foolish enough not to do analysis, no matter whether they're red, blue, purple, orange, green.
Right.
Because
I
it is
agree.
coming, and also they have to meet certain requirements. The SNAP concerns are coming first. There are many, many, many elderly people receiving supplemental nutrition. Elderly, I'm going to define that as like you're well into you're on Medicare. Okay, let's just go with that. Not even elderly in my mind. I mean,
yeah, no, wait. I got to stop.
I know,
you there.
but I'm just going to go with you're not at a point where you're required to.
Okay. All right.
Okay. No, I'm saying it's not elderly to me. Like
No, I get
my
it.
81-year-old state president like outruns me. I'm not kidding you.
Listen, I have an issue with the word elderly, but that's okay. I mean, I think of elderly as somebody in their 90s.
Elderly, it is built into law, right. That word. Okay.
Right.
So,
I know that.
And, concerns for many, many, many people. AARP has concerns for people who are especially family caregivers who have had to leave the workforce in order to keep someone out of a nursing home, which is now the nursing home's threatened because of Medicaid cuts. They have to work or volunteer. There's no caregiver out yet. We're still fighting to see if we could get that in. But like if you had to leave the workforce in order to care for a spouse, for instance, who has pancreatic cancer and dementia,
right,
in order to keep them out of a nursing home, in order to keep them off of Medicaid, the work requirement issue is not resolved, and neither is the rest of it. So there's a lot of concerns, and these are our public concerns. We have been vocal about them. They have passed into law. There's always opportunity to make change.
Yeah,
I'll just say that there's always opportunity to make change. Right. And this is not something that's going to hit one state or another. It's going to hit every state. And
I come from, I come from the nursing home, long-term care, skilled nursing space. So there's just one thing that you said that I find interesting, which you said you've had your kumbaya moments with that industry. I, on the other hand, really haven't. So I've worked in it for so many years. And that's how I came to all of this, really, because of everything I've seen and, always speaking up for doing better and providing better. And I am very concerned, and not only for people in nursing homes, but if they do away or modify the money follows the person so that people can stay home and receive home care with those same benefits. And then those people will be forced to move into a nursing home situation. And it's just the cost a horror show.
There's nothing good about moving people who can live in the community to a nursing home. Live in the community safely and independently at a cost that is a third, if not less.
Correct.
Than moving them to a place where they have to live in an institutionalized setting where they don't necessarily need or want to be. There's nothing good about that for the taxpayer, for the individual, for the nursing home. So it's, and my kumbaya moments with the nursing homes have been literally around COVID was not an easy time. But I will say there are excellent facilities around this state, and there are not excellent facilities. But my kumbaya moments have happened when the nursing home industry has come to the table and we've actually been able to agree on policy changes. And that has happened in recent years. And if the policy does not have the consumer first, AARP does not get behind the policy.
Right.
So, there have been fights too, right? But I work extraordinarily closely with our long-term care ombudsman in Connecticut. We probably have, and I'm going to say this with some deep confidence, one of the best working relationships in the country between AARP and a long-term care ombudsman.
Is it still Mairead Painter?
Mairead Painter.
Yes, because I had her on my last show, and I want to have her on this show also.
She's a fighter, and she does what's right, and that's the great thing about an ombudsman, right? They're independent. They don't have to answer even to the person who holds their contract.
Correct.
So, like the state of Connecticut holds her contract, but and I'm calling it a contract, but it's not, but let's just use that word for the sake of it. But she does not have to do what the governor or her commissioner says, which is like, she's like one of 3 people in the state of Connecticut who work for the state of Connecticut who can say that.
Right.
But the industry has come to the table, especially the nonprofit industry. They're definitely focused on workforce issues. They definitely, are we always on the same page? Nope.
No. Right.
But, you know, I think a lot of the time the goals are the same, while the interest in the dollar alignment and the funding alignment and that level may not be the same.
Right. So Jason here says, what happened to the nurse in nursing home? I mean, that's
we had a big win a couple of years ago, not even. Yeah, a year and a half ago. Again, time flies, but with the previous administration and difficult with a rule on nursing home minimum staffing.
I knew you were going to say that. Yep.
Being overturned. This is not, we advocated heavily for that. You know, I walked into our members of Congress's office and got pushback from some of them who are, I mean, we're allied on many things, not always on everything. But it was evident to me that the nursing home industry had been there right before I had been there. And, you know, they don't want the minimum staffing levels. Even I think they would love a day when they could do that and afford it. But they were working against it. In Connecticut, we've had some upheaval with ours. There's a very difficult math problem, honestly. I don't think anyone wants to I don't think any nurse in a nursing home wants to provide bad care.
I agree.
Working there want to provide bad care. I think there's problems in nursing homes, and the current situation with Medicaid is not going to improve them. I drive by a nursing home that a woman I volunteered with for many, many years, enough so I started with the state organization for the blind, basically, in Connecticut, and I signed on to be a volunteer for her, thinking I was going to go in like once a week and spend an hour doing something. I became the executor of her will. I became her power of attorney. I took someone who stole from her to court. It was not my favorite volunteer job in the world, because she really did become like a huge part of my life. And now I just want to stock cans on shelves. But, you know, there was a nursing home she ended up in many, many times. Her husband died in. I was there an hour before her husband died. That thing is shuttered. I drive by that every day. It was owned by a mom and pop shop, and then it got bought, and now it is closed. And it was in one of the better places. And that's the worry for the nursing home industry. We need nursing homes. We need
apps. They're not going anyplace. So no. Paul Brown just made a comment, and what I find interesting about what he said was that I've been using this for the last several years. And he said the administration is turning aging with dignity into Soylent Green. And I have used the reference to that film for the last 3 or 4 years. So, I mean, that just really, just got me in my gut, because the fact that somebody else.
You might have a fan in Paul Brown then, right? You might have a fan here in Paul Brown.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, that's my fear. And so one of the things that I'm trying to figure out, of course, there's so much going on in the present climate in this country that I don't, you know, every issue seems to be an important one. But, you know, we talk about longevity and healthful longevity and people living longer and extending the lifespan and your health span and reversing aging. I'm not such a fan of that, even though, you know, that has to do more at a cellular level. I don't think people realize that so much, but I could be wrong. But here's the thing. If we have people, you know, living longer, so now that older population is going to increase even further, even more. And we don't provide a way for those people to contribute to society in any meaningful way, or have a productive life, or be valued, or be treated with dignity or respect, then what's the point?
Well, I mean, and the issue of people are living longer. Are they living
better,
healthy in their longer lives, right?
Right. That's my point.
Yeah, so we have a strong focus on healthy behaviors. Brain health is a huge component of our social mission at AARP, because if you have your brain health, you can concentrate more on your physical health, right?
True.
And I think everyone is a little scared of brain health issues, maybe more than they even are of other things. But you're again, we want to make aging easier. What I want to be clear about is that AARP, we have policy. We don't do politics. We oppose and agree with this administration, others. I remember distinctly having one of my first, I think maybe my first taking on when the states had to take on a little bit of a presidential effort. We were against President Obama on a Social Security related COLA issue.
Right.
Every administration, every Congress, we have policies, and those policies are consumer focused. So we can talk about healthcare industry, nursing homes, insurance, prescription drugs, electricity, the list goes, cable industry. I mean, these are all industries,
right?
All industries I've taken on in my 13 years. But always, if there's no consumer benefit, I am not taking a position. This is the easiest to see in insurance and with prescription drugs. There's middlemen. There's who's making the money, whose fault is it, who's pointing the fingers.
Right.
Show me where the consumer is going to benefit, and that is a policy we can have a discussion about, right? Otherwise, we don't even take a position. If this is about whether company A, or let's just not even company, industry A or industry B, who are doing this, makes money or doesn't make money, we don't even.
Right.
That's 90% of how I can explain our policy.
Right.
Consumer focused. So the consumer being at the heart of all of this, making aging easier. That has to do with health, wealth, and self. Mostly, they can all fit into those buckets, right? Are you healthy? Can you afford your health care? Can you afford your prescription drugs? Do you have access to health care?
Right.
Do you have access to the healthcare you want in the way you want it, in the fashion you want it? Because you should also have to just take what was given to you.
Correct.
Wealth. Do you have your Social Security? Can you pay for your bills? Can you live a lifestyle that you at least are comfortable in? You don't have to be as comfortable as you were before. We can adjust. We all do, right? But can you live and be okay and not be constantly concerned, et cetera, or worried that one tiny little thing is going to throw off your whole life? And self is your family. Self is the house you live in, right? Do I live where I want to live, how I want to live, when I want to live there, where I want to? Do I work if I want to work, not work if I don't want to work? Do I have to move in with my kids when I don't want to? I mean, these things, do I have social connections? Do I have places to go? Do I have my internet so I can watch this show? There's all these things that are built into it. It's hard to be the state director of AARP because sometimes we have to do so many broad things. But if I start bucketing health, wealth, self,
I love that.
It gets easier, right? Because we all kind of get that.
Right.
And it's hard to be everything to everyone. And when we can't be, we won't be. And when we get a policy that helps, we work on it.
So Dick Thomas says, the problem with pluralism and political compromise is like a bill for clean air or clean meat. Once special interests hammer it out, we get half clean air and half clean meat. Quality nursing home care is no different.
Again, and this sort of just speaks to what I just said. We put the consumer in there, and the consumer involves the family, right? Not just the person in the nursing home, but their caregiver.
Correct.
They're and listen, 85 to 90% of people we surveyed do not want to go to a nursing home.
And why is that? Because they know
or you just want to live where you know.
That's true too.
People don't feel like, I think, a nursing home is a choice they made. I think people feel like a nursing home is a choice that was made for them.
For them, right? I agree. Or happened to them.
Right. And that can happen at any age, honestly.
Correct.
But what most people want is a continuation of the life in the place that they lived, that they liked, that they're comfortable in. And that doesn't have to be the exact same house. This goes back to that downsizing conversation, right?
Correct.
It doesn't have to be the exact same house you lived in your whole life. You may not even want that freaking house anymore. It's too big. I don't want to deal with it.
Right.
There's
Right.
empty rooms. I'm good. I don't want to mow this lawn anymore.
Right.
It can be all of those things. But it might be in the community that you've lived in and are comfortable in and are happy in because you belong to clubs, have friends, go to a church, right? But like, the most concerning thing is how choices start to narrow when health, wealth, and self are not being fulfilled at a level that I think we all aspire to, right? And aspiration is aspiration. We may not all get there all the time, but we aspire to having control of all those things, right? But when choices narrow, people get upset and concerned, nervous and worried. And that's what can happen with when policies shift, when it's away from the consumer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Nora, before you go, is there a website? You rattled off a couple of them, but are there some specific places you would recommend people to go, either to get involved or get more information?
Well, I don't think we have just a Connecticut office. So always start with, office, that's where I work.
Right.
We don't have just a Connecticut audience. We have, so aarp.org. And you're going to find really well organized categories at the top, chat bot who can help you get where you want to be. But, it kind of buckets into that health, wealth, and self. It buckets into policy, member benefits, et cetera, et cetera. So one of my volunteers once described aarp.org as the Google of like 50 plus. And I love that. So go there first. If you have any questions, and I really don't care where you live, I'm happy to answer them, except for my vacation coming up next week, but someone will get back to you. You can go to CT at AAR. No, that's right. No, hold on. Yes, CT at aarp.org. I'm mixing up all my things. So, and if you live in Massachusetts, you can go to MA at aarp.org. And that's the email address for every state in the nation.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So if you live in Hawaii, you go to HI at aarp.org, and that'll set up an email into the state account. And someone will get to that account a couple times a week. So you can always reach your state office. And I always, as a state director of a state office, I think your first stop should be your state office, because we're in your community. If you are inspired by, all the things I just talked about, our volunteers help us with, whether it's educating people in community, lobbying our legislature alongside of us as AARP advocates. They're unpaid, so they're not lobbyists, they're advocates.
Right.
Alongside of us, working on bills, testifying about things that their life is about. Speaking up at press conferences, attending events. Every AARP office in the country has volunteers and an opportunity for you to apply to be a volunteer. We love our volunteers, cannot do it without them. I've got, 150 or so in my office. And then there's our safe driver programs, which I don't operate, and our tax aid program, which is the largest free provider of taxes in the country. It's all the same stuff everybody else uses. You can get your taxes done for free, and you don't even have to have tax experience to volunteer to be a tax aid volunteer.
Oh, cool.
But just go to your state office. That's my best bet. So like I said, the two first initials that the U.S. Post Office uses for your state, at aarp.org. And that'll set you up with an email. And if you don't hear back from them, just contact me, CT at aarp.org.
So thanks, Nora. But Robert Klein says one other thing, why aren't you talking more about assisted living, which I'm sure is a more popular option to moving straight to a nursing home, though too often unaffordable. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, that a lot of assisted livings, and it is an interim kind of move, but a lot of them are prohibitively,
it is prohibitively expensive. And the best answer I can give in like 10 seconds is the regulations are not the same. Assisted living in many cases is like moving into any other apartment complex with a contract. Correct. There are starting to be more consumer protections around those, but the reason it's not paid for by Medicaid or Medicare
Correct.
or any of those things, right? So the policy making has to do more around consumer protections. Like we've passed stuff in Connecticut, no, it's basically like in more line with like the buyer beware and having to be able to get your money back after you've signed a contract. Every state is different. There's no federal regulation over it. It's not the Wild West, but it kind of could be.
Well,
if you're not careful.
Well, the other thing I was just going to say is, and it is changing a little bit, that if you need certain kinds of care, a lot of assisted livings aren't able to provide that kind of care, whether it's, testing for diabetes or injections for diabetes, or if you need some kind of IV or, whatever it is. And if you do move into a place like that and you do need that, there are many places that will allow you to hire a caregiver to be with you, and families do that. But as I said, there are assisted living communities where they are starting to provide more of that, but it's not the general case. It's more of
everything is look at every single one of them individually.
Correct.
It's not as easy, and none of this is easy.
Correct.
But it's not as easy, and it's just not regulated, and a lot of it's just the same as going in and signing a lease for an apartment.
I agree.
So it's hopefully we'll get to a point someday where it's much more clear. My Place CT is good in Connecticut. That's a website, My Place CT. Robert, we have worked on regulation, but again, it's state by state, and it's not the same thing because there's no public payment for it. So we focus to Robert's place. Why isn't AARP working on it more? There is work on it state by state, and we also have the big issues federally that we have to focus on because you can't do every single thing. But his point is well taken. And as this industry grows, and 55 and up is not assisted living necessarily. And a lot of people think
But I just want to say one other thing about that. There are some assisted livings that are starting to take Medicare and Medicaid, but they aren't that many. And there are different price structures. So you just have to look into one that if you are looking to assisted living, to one that's can fit into your budget. I mean, I know one near where I live. I mean, I think it costs up to $500,000 to buy, it's very high level, but there are some that are not. So it just depends. But, as always, Nora, this has been terrific. There's so much to learn and understand about the role AARP plays and the initiative it assumes on. And, your work is always fantastic. So thanks so much. It was just
appreciate you having me, Phil. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. I always enjoy it. So thanks so much. It was really terrific. So please join me next Wednesday, September 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for Senior Nation to hear my conversation with my next guest, Daniel Blanchard. Daniel authored a series of books entitled Granddaddy's Secrets, and I particularly love his series for the way it highlights the wisdom and valuable lessons we learn from older adults. And Daniel has drawn upon those lessons to teach high school students about becoming men. So remember to tune in, comment, and ask questions on Wednesday, September 24th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Source TV Radio Network. And until then, take care, stay well, and stay tuned.
Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make